Hey guys, welcome back. I had a lot of things I want to talk about here today, so it might be a little bit lengthy. But our deer season starts tomorrow, so I want to do a video on that. And I'm here in the barnyard, so we've got a cranky goat there that's kind of acts like she's about ready to tear that tripod down. So if I have to cut out, you'll know me and the goat have had a spat. But anyway. First of all, I'd like to thank John Null, JNull0. He put the word out there here a few days ago about my channel and gained me a lot of subscribers. And if you come over from JNull0, I appreciate that. Appreciate you checking us out, and I'm gonna thank you, John, for doing that. John's been here several years now. He moved in, I'm sure he could tell you, I'm not sure how many years ago, but he has turned out to be a friend. We can depend on John Null. Anytime we need anything, he's more than happy to help. And I hope he feels the same way about us. But I just kind of want to throw that out there. I hope all you guys had a good Thanksgiving. You know, something that I never really thought about when I started the YouTube channel was how hard it is to get the word out. I kind of sat there for months with no subscribers, and it's hard to get your videos out, and you really need help from people that are established, like John. And I hope that you will enjoy some of the material that I try to put out there. It's a big help to have some connections like John to get it out there. But anyway, back to Thanksgiving. I hope you guys all had a good Thanksgiving. I hope everyone is healthy, and after church today we went to a local Giovanni's to get us a bite to eat. That place was plumb full of people, and I kind of reckon everybody's sick of turkey. They were busy, so I figure that's got a big part to do with it. But I thank God for everything that I've got. I'm very thankful, and I give him all the credit. He's kept me very healthy and my family, and allowed us to be able to work. And we're not rich; we don't have a lot, but I am very thankful for what I do have. So, but anyway, we're through Thanksgiving, and next week, starting tomorrow, Monday, is our deer gun season, and that's what I wanted to concentrate on here today. If you watch very many of my videos, you'll learn pretty soon that I kind of enjoy doing things the old-fashioned way. It's like my brother said, he guessed that I just despised enjoyment. That's what he's always said about himself, said he just despises enjoyment. But that's not true in my case. I just love using these old guns, and that goat, you might be able to hear her there on the phone. She's thinking about just taking that thing right out. But anyway, yeah, I like to use the old guns and tools and that kind of thing. And this is not an old gun, but it's an old style gun. It's a Pedersoli. It's Italian made long rifle. It's patch and ball with black powder only, and that's what I use to deer hunt with. I bow hunt through the fall quite a bit, and when it comes time for gun season, this is the gun that I prefer to use, so it's what I stick with. So I love it. It's very accurate, out to about 50 yards. I've killed a lot of deer with it at that distance. The barrel is rifled, and I really just kind of wanted to tell you about this gun today. And never know, I might be able to show you this gun in action later on in the week, or usually about the only way to unload the gun is to fire it at the end of the week. So if nothing else, I'll probably do that, maybe do a little video on that first of next week. But just kind of want to tell you a little bit about it. This here on my hip, yeah, it kind of looks like a purse, but it's called a possible bag. And I reckon they named it that because you want to carry everything in it that you can possibly think of. And when you use a gun like this, it takes quite a bit. I will say from the offset that I am not an expert on these guns by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure I know there's lots of guys out there that know a whole lot more about them than I do, but I have used it, and I've got to know it. I've got to know how to use it. There's a few little tricks that I've learned over the years. It's not nearly as easy to use as I thought it would be. There's some things that I have to do with this gun, and I'll tell you about them when loading and unloading. And I've had those scary moments too when it wouldn't go off. And those are the times when you really test your patience, and you have to be patient. So, but I'm gonna get rid of this goat, and then we'll go into this gun. Okay, what we've got here is a Pedersoli long rifle. It's an Italian-made long rifle, and it is a percussion, which means it has a cap. I'll show you the cap here in a minute. But it has a cap instead of a flintlock. The reason I went that route was when I bought this gun, the style of gun that I wanted, which was an old Pennsylvania style. They only built them for right-handed shooters, and they advised me that with a flintlock, a lot of times you will get flash and black powder in the face because I shoot left-handed. So it was on this side, and they didn't make a left-handed gun at that time. So I went with percussion on that account. It is a little more tricky when you get into the flintlocks. You have to keep your powder dry. You be a little bit more careful when it comes to that. So, but this, I'll show you some of the things that I use, and then I'll show you how I load the gun. And if you've ever tried this, you know that it's not an easy task to get a gun loaded, especially to load it for the second time. Say you've shot a deer or at a deer and missed, and you need to load it a second time. It's a little bit tricky. If you want to read about some real experts, I mean, I've heard of men, frontiersmen, that they could load on the run and turn and shoot on the run, and I now know how extremely difficult that would be. But there's men that used to be able to do that: Daniel Boone, Simon Kenton, Lewis Wetzel. If you ever read the Zane Grey books, or The Frontiersman, The Frontiersman's a great book, and it's really what inspired me to start using one of these guns. So it's the story of Simon Kenton and Daniel Boone. It's really a good book. You should check that out. But alrighty, we'll go into loading it here. I use just black powder, gunpowder. You can kind of get it to see what it looks like there. You're not supposed to use the Pyrodex, the pellets, but you can kind of see it's. And what I use is a 2F black powder. The more F's, the finer the grain, I believe is how it goes. 2F is what was recommended for my gun. And I think the finer grain is what you use if you've got a flintlock. You'll have a little pan that you put the fine grain in. It flashes easier. So I believe that's the purpose in that. But, all right. This is what I carry the black powder in. This horn was actually given to me, so it kind of has a little special meaning to it. It'll hold enough black powder. They call it a day horn. You carry that, it'll last you one good day if you're serious. So, but I'll show you how it works. All right, and I grab a 50 caliber is what my gun is. It just uses a little lead ball. There you can see that. This looks like an oversized BB. You wouldn't believe the damage. The lead is soft, and when it hits, it spreads. Does a tremendous amount of damage. Very deadly out to 50 yards. Probably further, but when I get out past that, I'm not real anxious to shoot at a deer for fear of wounding it, so I like to shoot within that 50 yards if I can. And we have so much brush around here, it's very rare that you're going to get much more out from 50 yards anyway. So, all right, we've got a little ball starter here. That's how you start the ball in your gun. Alrighty, the powder. I use 80 grains. in my gun, and they sell a little tool for that. That you can measure it out precisely. And what I did was, when I bought the gun, I went ahead and bought that, and it's marked at 80 grains. So you just fill this up with black powder, and then it'll come out perfect every time. But what I did, I just took a drill and drilled out an antler, just because I kind of like the look of that. Drilled out an antler to match that 80 grains, and that's what I use to refill with. It works just fine. So I found 80 grains is quite sufficient to do the job. And the patches that I use, now you can carry a patch knife and just cut, keep some cloth and just cut cloth, but I went ahead and bought the patches, and they come in pre-lubed so that they slide really easy, and they're already cut, fit for the gun, for the 50 caliber gun. So they've worked really well for me. Very inexpensive, so that's what I use. I'll tell you about the second time that you load a gun. You've loaded it, you shoot it, and then you need to load it again. That 50 caliber ball fits in that gun so tight that you really need to swab it, which means clean the barrel with the rod. And that's what I'll usually use these for. They're lubricated, and they clean it good so that the next ball goes in there good. One trick that I learned, when you swab the gun out, a lot of times you'll push that black powder residue to the bottom of the barrel and stop up the nipple. And then the next time you go to load, then that residue stopped that nipple up, and when you go to fire, it's stopped up, it won't go off. I found that out the hard way, and that's one of the tricks. So what I do is, after I've cleaned the barrel, swabbed it out, then I'll fire a cap through it, and that opens that nipple back up, and then I reload it. So that's very important that you know that, because when one won't go off, that's one of the scariest things you could ever experience. You're just waiting, you don't know, and I've sat there and held that gun for a minute or two just waiting on it to go off. It's nerve-wracking. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and go into loading this gun so that you can see how that it works, and it's quite the process. So what I'm going to do first is I like to fire a couple caps through the nipple, and that way it gets the condensation dried out in the nipple, in the bottom of the barrel where the black powder is going to set. Okay, we'll shoot a couple caps through it here, and it's a number 11 cap, and I don't know if you can see it or not. This little tiny cap's got a little thing in there that goes off, and that's what sets the black powder off when it's loaded. But I do that to dry out the nipple on the bottom inside of the barrel. Condensation is a problem. A lot of times once I load this gun, it'll go all week if I don't fire it, but I have to leave it outside. You can't carry it in and out. If you carry it inside in the warmth and then you bring it back out in the cold, it'll condensate. It'll get that gunpowder wet, and it won't go off. So once I load this gun, it stays out the rest of the week until fired. So we'll go ahead and fire this off a couple times to get that dried out. Well, I should also mention this gun has two triggers. It has a safety trigger that you pull back. This is what you really got, two safeties. You pull the hammer back, then you pull this back, and then the front trigger is the trigger that you pull. Man, it is extremely sensitive. If you I think the wind off of your finger will set this gun off. So once that second trigger in the back is pulled back, you better be careful. Okay, now that we've got that done, the first thing you do is you put the powder in. And like I say, I've measured this out so that it's precisely 80 grains. Okay, just level full. Just kind of shake it level. You just take that, pour it right down in there. And what I'll generally do now is to just kind of help seat that gunpowder in the bottom. Just give it a couple taps. That kind of gets that gunpowder seated to the bottom of the barrel. Okay, now we need to get a patch, and that's what I was telling you about earlier. A little lubricated patch. It's made for the 50 caliber gun. All right. Found it to be quite a bit easier to use the ball starter to get the ball started down in the end of the barrel there. So you just kind of set that on there and grab you. And they make packs that you can pre-measure your powder and all that, but this seems to work all right for me. I usually just kind of depend on one shot. If I can't get it in the first shot, then I've messed up. So, all right. So let me kind of show you. The lighting's not real good here, and I apologize for that. But what you want to do is you want to try to get that ball as near the center of that patch as you can possibly get it, so that when it goes in, there's not any extra patch sticking out around the ball and up out of the end of the barrel. So I always try to get that just as even as possible. That looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and just kind of slide that down in there. You can kind of see how even that patch is. Nearly exactly the same all the way around. Believe it or not, an uneven patch can affect the velocity or the direction of the ball. So that makes a difference. Okay, and then this is the ramrod. Something I did when I got this, I forget where I learned to do it, but I marked this ramrod, put a little black mark there on it. Hopefully you can see that. I put that on there so that I can tell whether the gun's loaded or unloaded if my mind slips. So this is an unloaded gun, marked. So when I put the black powder in there, that's going to change. The mark's going to be sticking up out of the gun, about an inch or so. So we'll just go ahead and push that ball on down in there. Maybe you can see that mark out here in the sunlight. See how it's up, actually a couple inches up above the top of the barrel. That means that gun is now loaded. And usually I don't really tap the ball down in there once it's seated, but I will just apply just at least a little bit of pressure, make sure that it's seated good. You don't want to sit here and slam the ball down in there. You can damage the ball. That makes a difference in how it flies. So I just kind of seat the ball down in there with a little extra shove. All right. Folks, she's loaded. Now this is when you need to be extremely careful with these guns. And never, ever, ever put a cap on one unless you're aiming to shoot something. I usually will hold the cap separate, and I'll lower the hammer here. Okay, no cap, hammer lowered, and I'll leave it in a cool place until I'm ready to go hunting tomorrow morning. and hopefully we'll get us a deer with it. We'll see. I got a buck the first day of bow season. I bow hunt quite a bit, so I got that done early, and now it's just for fun. I hunt with my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, and we have a good time this week. We always do, and we just hunt for meat. We eat anything we kill. So, but anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you that. I'm real proud of this gun. It has been a lot of fun for me. I get made fun of quite a bit when hunting with it. I hunt with the Amish some, and they ask me why I don't just go out and knock the deer in the head with it rather than shoot them. So, but it's an enjoyable gun to use. And when you fire it off and the black powder, that smell of that black powder is, I mean, there's nothing like it. I love it. It's funny because when you shoot the gun, a lot of times you have no idea whether you've hit a deer or not. There'll be such a poof of smoke that you kind of have to wait for it to clear and then go see what happened. But that's fine with me. I love it. But if I do get anything, I'll probably post it, and I'll show you how I unload the gun, perhaps later in the week or first of next week. Hey, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you on the next video.